Let's welcome in the Collinwood native, Cleveland guy, but also a former Texans receiver, Cecil Shorts.
Oh, he's got that Texans helmet in the background.
Cecil!
Yeah, we see you, Cecil.
Oh!
Man spent 1 year with the Texans, and all of a sudden he forgets where he's from.
Don't put that on me. Don't put that. I'm in my office. I don't have a Browns helmet. I got Browns hoodies and stuff. I don't got a Browns helmet. So
we need to get that man a Browns helmet.
Cecil getting that direct deposit from the Texans, boy.
Apparently.
you got it.
That direct deposit is key.
Cecil, how do you look at this game? What ultimately, is it going to come down to how CJ Stroud plays? Is it going to come down to the Browns defense? What do you see?
Ooh, it's going to be tough. It's going to be different than the last time they played Christmas Eve, right?
Mm-hmm.
You had Case Keenum. You had Davis Mills in the game. It's going to be completely different. I think it's going to come down to the Browns defense and can they impact CJ Stroud? Because if you look at the Browns defense, they're going to get pressure on the quarterback. They're going to play man coverage. So when they play man coverage, can the receivers get open? Can Bobby Slowick, the offensive coordinator for the Texans, can he design plays, whether it's meshes, whether it's man beaters? Can he design plays to beat man coverage? And then can Nico Collins, you're showing right now, can Noah Brown, can Dalton Schultz, can they beat Robert Woods? Can they beat man coverage? Because if they can't, you're going to be in trouble. That's just where the Browns are going to bring pressure. You're going to see Myles Garrett. You're going to see Zadarius Smith. You're going to see these guys blitzing. You're going to see the pressure. But I don't think the pressure is going to rattle CJ. It just hasn't all year.
Right.
So for me, it's going to come down to, can the Browns defense can they rattle him, or can they force him to get rid of the ball and miss throws? And then when it comes to honestly, Amari Cooper had a career day, like a Madden type day the last time they played the Texans. Can they stop these? Can the Texans eliminate the explosive plays and stay in the game? Because if you stay in the game, CJ's gonna give you a shot. But if not, you're gonna be in trouble.
Cecil, you mentioned I don't know if you mentioned Nico Collins, but I'm going to mention Nico Collins because you talked about the Texans' ability to get open. He's obviously their best player in the passing game, since Tank Dell got hurt. And what would you do if you were the Browns defensively? Would you put Denzel Ward on him and say, just, hey, this is your job? Or what would you do? What do you think the best idea is for the Browns defensively on stopping Nico Collins?
I look at it two ways. I might look at it from a Bill Belichick standpoint, like, you know what? I'll put my second best corner. Maybe I put Newsome on Nico and have some safety help over Nico. And then I put Denzel on whoever you think the number 2 receiver is and completely lock him out the game. Now, guess what? How you going to get open? Now, how are you going to prove Woods can be the guy? Prove to me Dalton Schultz can be the guy. Prove to me you can run the football against this defense, right? So that might be a mindset. Or it just might be like, hey, Denzel, go follow him and take him out the game. Because Nico is playing at a high level right now. He's confident. One thing that, or any player, but if you're a player that's really, really confident and you're high streak going and you're playing well, it doesn't matter who lines up against you. You feel like you can win that one-on-one battle. So you got to kind of take him out the game. In my opinion, you got to all right, beat me with Noah Brown, right? Beat me with older Robert Woods. Beat me with Devin Singletary. I want to see those guys beat me, not Nico Collins.
Well, let's go ahead and stay with that theme. How would you attack the Browns defense if you CJ Stroud? I thought they were aggressive coming out the gates against the Colts. I liked the beautiful throw he made. And it just seems like he's a guy that doesn't get shaken a lot. How would you go about, making CJ Stroud comfortable in this game?
Getting the ball out quickly. I think you got to get the screen game going, be creative with motions, and then with the motion, create screens to your different backs, to your different receivers. And then I'm not going to be afraid. To me, as an offensive-minded guy, everybody has an identity, right? So what is your identity? Every week you're preparing for a different defense, what they bring to the table, but you still got to do what you do well. So I don't think you stop the aggressive play. Maybe it's more calculated. Maybe you try to mix and match in motion and different formations to get different guys open, but you still got to be aggressive. You still got to have the screens, get the quick game going. If you get him in rhythm, it's going to be an interesting game to see It's going to be a really interesting game to see because one thing I know, Joe Flacco, and I love him, 6-0 when it comes to wild card and the wild card round and first round playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. He's going to turn the ball over though. That's just what he's been doing this year. So if he turns the ball over and CJ can take advantage of that, it's going to be an interesting game.
Cecil, if you would, we talked about this earlier on the program. I'm not sure if you played in playoff games. I think you did.
One.
Okay. What was the difference? Sort of compare it to the difference between, high school to college, big jump. College to the NFL regular season, big jump. NFL regular season to the NFL playoffs. What kind of jump is that, and what is CJ Stroud about to experience that he doesn't know yet?
You know what? So what's the biggest difference, because CJ played to me at Ohio State. The atmosphere he saw at Ohio State, the people watching him, the people he played in front of, is more than the NFL. Yeah. Like, he played in 100,000 people every week in college, basically. That's more than what you in the NFL stadium, right? When he played in the college football playoffs, the millions of people that watched it is going to be the same amount, the same amount in playoffs. The difference between obviously high school and college and preseason NFL, and then there's a difference between preseason and regular season, and then regular season and playoffs. The speed of the game, the intentionality of the game, the heightened stakes of the game, right? He's experienced heightened stakes when he played Georgia and you played Michigan and stuff like that, but the speed of the game is a different level in the playoffs. I've never seen everybody moving faster, and I'm not sure if it's just because of the situation of you win or go home, right? It's heightened stakes. Really, guys are coming out there to play, but it's different in the playoffs, completely different. So he'll be at home. It'll be a calm atmosphere on offense. It won't be too much going on as if he was going to Cleveland or Kansas City or Buffalo, but the game is going to be. That's one thing Cleveland has the advantage of. They've been there, they've done that. They have veterans that played in the playoffs. They understand the big stakes. They understand the speed. And it's going to be different for CJ, I think, especially early on.
I'm curious, Cecil. I don't think we've talked about this yet this week, but Mikey McNuggets, our producer, and I were talking over the weekend, and he asked me if I thought if Jim Schwartz was going to interview for a job. Ooh. There was reports of Jim Schwartz being going out for a head coaching job. Now, as far as I know, Jim Schwartz is not interviewing right now. But we talked about whether that could be at least somewhat of a distraction for the team, and I thought it might be at least a small degree. Well, your guy, offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick, is not only been requested by one team, he's been requested by two teams already. Now, I don't know when they're going to talk to him, but he's 36. He was basically a gopher 4 years ago as a quality control coach. He's only been a legitimate assistant coach for 4 years and an offensive coordinator for 1 year, and two teams are talking to him potentially about a head coaching job. If I'm him, that's got to be in my mind, and how much would you be worried about that being a distraction for him and the Texans?
Nothing, because of DeMeco Ryans. Because how DeMeco runs his team, how he has the culture set. They're keeping the main thing right now. And obviously Bobby has an opportunity to elevate his career, which that will come if it's this year, next year, the year after that. But the way he has these guys locked in and have these guys focus, Bobby Slowick is focused on the Cleveland Browns right now. That's just what it is. Everything else will come when it comes, but right now he's locked in. This team is locked in. The way he's gotten these guys to play the last 3-4 weeks, really the whole season, he just is a great leader. So I expect Bobby to fall in line with what the task is at hand. And if not, honestly, if you don't go out there and perform this week and at least put up a decent performance this week, they might take their interview away, their request away. Like, what you got going on? But I think Bobby be locked in. It can be a distraction at times, but the way DeMeco's leading this franchise, I just don't see it being a real distraction at all.
Cecil, just to stay on that note for a minute, I've always felt, as a guy who never played at any kind of high level, that from an outsider's perspective, I always thought that the way the league goes about coaching hires is wrong. That it shouldn't be about, well, this guy did a good job with an offense or a defense last year. It should be, to me, all about how is this guy as a leader of men? You just mentioned your head coach there. Clearly, he is a great leader of men. And I think that, more than his ability to call defense or any of this other stuff, is why he has had success. And along with Kevin Stefanski, who I believe is another leader of men, is why they're the top 2 candidates for Coach of the Year. We've seen that with Mike Tomlin, and I think the league all too often wants the hot coordinator instead of the guy who's the leader of men. Am I right about this or not?
Oh, you're 100% correct. I think we get too caught up in the fads. We get too caught up in trying to hire the smartest genius they can find as far as the offensive scheme or the most physical, a defensive scheme guy, and how aggressive they're going to be. Can you lead these men? You have 30, 31-year-olds men in there with mortgages and families. How can you lead them? How can you communicate with them? How can you get them to buy into what you're saying and be a team player first, right? Mike Tomlin, unbelievable leader.
Yeah.
Like unbelievable leader of men. To never have a losing season, to go through whatever he went through this year. I think his name should be in the Coach of the Year, but his name can get votes or whatever because, look at his quarterback situation. Look at his injury situation. Look at what all he went through and all the critics saying, should he still be there? What's going on there? And they 10-7 to make the playoffs. Because he's able to galvanize the troops and communicate to men at a high level to get them to believe in, hey, this is a team first. Let's put ourselves, our selfish egos aside, and let's do what we have to do to win this for the team. It's the same thing with D'Amico and Kevin Stefanski. They find ways to communicate with these men, and they buy in, and that's the number one quality you need to be looking for in a head coach. Can they be a leader of men, period?
Yeah. Cecil, we're about to get into this conversation later on in the show, but I want to get your thoughts on it because you're a former player. There's a lot of times, when it comes to awards talk about like defensive player of the year, offensive player, MVP, coach of the year, those things. Mostly, they give it to the media and the media votes on it, and certain writers or journalists have a vote. I've always kind of had a problem with it because, there's been multiple years where I could go back and look at it and say LeBron should have had an MVP 4 years in a row. The fact that Kobe won it one time is ridiculous. Like, they use certain things, narratives to disqualify or qualify people. But the pushback is that the players wouldn't do a better job because they're not plugged into it. They don't know who's good. They don't watch every single person every single game. Do you think there should be a system where the players do vote on awards, or is it just what it is?
I think it should be half and half. I do think the players should have some type of influence. By the way, I love your glasses.
Thank you.
The swag today is on point. You got the dark glasses on, the chain, the wristband.
Cecil,
the details into it, I love.
A Texans fan,
it's small, right?
He went viral yesterday for saying that the Texans have a bunch of young kids with library cards and still living with their parents. That got posted on some Texans websites, and someone said, who is this Bobby Brown lookalike? So he decided today to come in and look like Bobby Brown.
I'll give you that Bobby Brown. It's in the bag. It's just there. I like them. I love the young kids. They got a lot of young pups. But I'm just saying, they got the library cards.
To answer your question, though, I do think the players should have a type of vote because they can see things that the media can't. It's like the media may see things that the players can't. So I think them combined, working together, could give you a better outcome of a more consistent, or who is the actual best player for the Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year, whatever the award may be. But I think it's just fair. Like, hey, the guys in the locker room are going against whether it's the offensive line or defensive line, the corners, the safe. They can see things, and they personally have experiences like, man, this dude, and he needs to be in the running for whatever award, right? The same way the media can look at probably a multitude of games and say, hey, this guy deserves because of this, that, or this game. I just think it should be a collaborative effort, and that can be probably a better outcome for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, it could be interesting if you had, what is it? I think a lot of these awards, it's 2 representatives from every city in the media, and maybe you could have 2 guys from each team get a vote. Guys we know are going to take it seriously. You can't vote for I think you'd have to say you can't vote for your teammate, otherwise it would, that would have to be a caveat of it, I think. But you could make it work, and I think Cecil's right. I think there are some things the players would miss, and there are some things that the media misses. I think it's a fair point. It'd be a good balance. We'll see if they actually do it.
See, so one thing we've talked about on the show throughout the season is the fact that it feels like the pendulum is swinging from offense to defense. Do you see that trend? Just a few short years ago, we saw playoff games that looked like pinball games. 300 yards, 400 yards, touchdowns everywhere. It feels like general managers, front offices, and head coaches have put a higher priority on defense to slow that offensive train, and it feels like it's happening.
I think they had to go on the defensive side because the offense is putting up so many points. I mean, a few years ago, it was a Monday night game, if I'm not mistaken. St. Louis Rams. I'm aging myself right now. The Los Angeles Rams and the Kansas City Chiefs was like 51-50. Mm-hmm. Like the points and the quarterbacks and honestly, the game is made to favor the offense, right? So if I'm a head coach, I have to go out and be aggressive on the defensive side of the ball and figure out, okay, who are the best guys to bring into my team, whether it's free agency or draft, to be able to slow these defenses down. Do I see the tide turning? I don't personally. I still think the game is still an offensive game. It's still putting up crazy amount of points. I mean, look at Mike McDaniels and what they're doing in Miami. You look at just certain teams and how they're putting the stats up. I still think because the game is catered to the offense, it will always be that way.
Right.
But I do think that the defense is catching up, and I do think that it's a priority as a head coach and GM is to how do I stop Patrick Mahomes? Let me go get a defense in. Go get the biggest, fastest, baddest defense I can get. How do I stop a Tyreek Hill? I got to figure out how to draft another Jalen Ramsey, or I got to get another, a Denzel Ward type. To slow down these receivers that are just outstanding. So I do think it's a priority, but I still think it's an offensive game for sure.
Hey, before we let you go, how does this game play out? Who wins?
There you go. Look, there you go.
I think just being honest, I don't know who's going to win. I think it could go either way. I think the favorite would be Cleveland. If you look at Cleveland, they have the veteran leadership. They have Flacco, who's been there, who's done that. They have just veterans that have been in the playoffs before and understand the how serious it is and what their goal is and in mind. But at the same time, you look at CJ and what he's able to do. I think it's going to be a good game.
No fence
maybe
riding.
I'm copping out right
Cecil,
now. Maybe I'm copping out right now.
That's a fence ride. We don't do that here. We're not letting you go until you tell us who wins the game.
Y'all put me on the spot.
Yeah, we want to pick.
Give them that smoke, dog.
Come on the record.
Hey, all right, here we go. 27-24 Texans.
There it is.
All right. Hey, we got it. There you go.
Thanks, Cecil.
Cecil, you're the best, man. Thanks. We'll talk soon.
The direct deposit always wins.
By the way, I wanted